Story 1. The Pizza Delivery Gone Wrong. My name's Tyler Peterson. I was 19 when this happened, a second-year student at the University of Akron. Dad walked out on us in the spring of 2019, said he needed space, then vanished to Florida with a woman whose name we never learned. Mom took double shifts at a nursing home, but the bills still climbed. I bounced between part-time gigs, stocking at Lowe's, washing dishes at a diner, even overnight custodian work, until my grades tanked. The only company that finally said yes was Marco's Pizza on Copley Road. Mileage pay, flexible hours, free slices at closing. Good enough. By early fall, I had the routine down. Bag, phone, receipt pad. In and out of the beat-up Mazda I borrowed from Mom. Weeknights were quiet. A few dorm orders, the occasional hospital run. Nothing weird until Tuesday. It was 7:40 p.m. Drizzle misted the windshield. The ticket read, * large sausage, paid online. Delivery to 621 Hendrick Street. * I punched it into maps. 20 minutes west, near an industrial strip I'd only seen from the highway. I remember thinking it was strange. The app listed Suite 5B, but everything out there looked abandoned. I pulled in and killed the headlights. The place had once been an auto body shop. All corrugated walls, busted signage, and weeds tall enough to scrape the Mazda's bumper. One sodium lamp flickered over a roll-up door half stuck open. I grabbed the pizza warmer, stepped out, and smacked it shut behind me. No doorbell in sight, so I knocked on the metal frame. Nothing. I tried again, louder. A shuffling sound drifted from inside. Then a man's voice. Older. Raspy. "Come in, kid. Door sticks." I wasn't supposed to enter a customer's property. Company policy. I called back to say I could wait at the door. He answered, * legs busted. Can't make it that far. Just inside the bay. * Rain ticked harder on the roof. I felt stupid arguing over 2 steps, so I crossed the threshold. My shoes hit the concrete, coated with dust. A single workbench lamp lit the space. Everything else melted into shadow. I spotted him near a hydraulic lift. Late 50s, grubby ball cap, cargo shorts despite the cold. He leaned on a crutch and waved me closer. That's when something clicked. The payment screen had shown a name, Jacob Sellers. But the tag on his tool cabinet, catching the lamp's glow, read Kowalski Auto Repair. Different name. He motioned to a folding table. * Put it there. Cash tip inside the lid. * I lifted the foam box onto the table. My fingers felt damp, even though the room was dry. From behind me, a voice said, * Need help? Pop. * I spun. A younger guy, hood up, jeans torn at the knee, stepped from the dark like he'd been there the whole time. He smiled too widely. Before I could react, something metallic pressed against my kidneys. Zip ties whipped around my wrists, cutting off circulation fast. The older man shuffled forward, grabbed my phone from my pocket, and tossed it to the kid. Airplane mode. They marched me across the bay toward a rust-stained stairwell. I fought to slow my breathing, counting steps like it might matter later. At the bottom was a cinderblock room, light bulb bare overhead, the smell of motor oil and wet paper. They tied my ankles, then looped more rope through an eye-bolt sunk into the floor. Smart. No chance of hopping away. The older guy crouched, his knee popping. * Your mom's number. Tell it right. * He tapped record on my phone and held it to my face. I gave them the number. They dialed on their device, blocked ID, muffled speaker. I heard Mom's voice pick up, small but steady. * Hello. * The kid talked. * We have Tyler. $10,000 cash. Call back in 15 minutes to say yes. Then wait for instructions. * As Mom stammered something, the line cut, and they left me alone. A single space heater clicked on, rattling dust into the bulb's glow. Time thickened. I remembered every news story about kids vanishing along the interstate. I tested the rope. A bit deeper. All I managed was dragging the heater closer with my heel, hoping heat might loosen the plastic zip ties. Didn't. 15 minutes felt like 50. Footsteps returned. The older man's phone was on speaker. Mom's voice again. Shaky but clearer. Asterisk. I have the money. Please don't hurt him. Asterisk. She didn't. 10 grand? We had maybe $300 in checking. My stomach nodded. He gave her an address near the riverfront warehouses. Told her to bring a duffel bag, drop it behind a blue dumpster by 9 p.m., and walk away. Asterisk. One wrong move. Boy gets to meet the rats. Asterisk. He finished, then ended the call. After that, they barely spoke. They played music on a cracked Bluetooth speaker. 90s rock, low volume, like they didn't want to be bored. The kids scrolled through my photos, laughed at a selfie with my cat, and tossed the phone on a workbench. Upstairs, a garage door rumbled. I guessed it was 8:45. The older man left, said nothing. The kid tapped his boot on the floor, restless. Here's where things shifted. A thump echoed overhead. Then another, heavier, like body-shifting equipment. The kid froze, tilted his head. Another thump, this time closer to the stairwell. He hissed too soon, pulled a knife from his belt, and pointed at me without real focus. Eyes locked on the ceiling. The door at the top of the stairs slammed open. Silence stretched. Then a voice boomed. Asterisk. Police! Show your hands. Asterisk. The kid bolted toward me, blade up. His sneakers slipped on the oily concrete, and he went down hard. 2 officers barreled past him, rifles up. One covered while the other sliced my ropes. Plastic cuffs replaced the zip ties so they could move me safely. As they guided me up the stairs, I caught a glimpse of the older man on the floor of the main bay, knees pinned by 2 more cops, wrists already cuffed. A black van sat outside, side door open, engine running, empty. In the squad SUV, a female detective handed me a space blanket and a cup of lukewarm coffee. She explained the plan. Mom didn't have $10 grand. She went straight to the Akron PD. They packed an empty duffel with shredded newspaper, wired it with a GPS tile, and staged plainclothes officers nearby. When the van crew grabbed it, patrol units boxed them in. Under questioning, the driver spilled the garage location. Mom arrived 20 minutes later, face gray but relief flooding her eyes. She hugged me so tightly that the coffee splashed. We gave statements until dawn. At 6 a.m., they finally let us leave. Mom's Corolla sputtered the whole way home. I quit Marco's the next morning. Story 2. The traffic stop turned deadly. A year ago in Tennessee, it was late at night, and I pulled over a driver who was driving in the wrong lane of the road. The car stopped, and I walked to where the car was parked. I saw that it was a male, black, with dreads. I told him to pull into a driveway that was feet away so that we would be all the way off the road. He complied, and I parked right behind him. When he got to that driveway, I walked up to his car again and now got the chance to introduce myself. I work for the county sheriff's office, I said. Asterisk. Pulled you over because you were all over the road. Asterisk. The man then starts apologizing and comes up with an excuse, saying that he was putting his hair up. I then asked him if he had anything to drink. He said, asterisk. Hell no, I had nothing to drink. I don't smoke or any of that. Asterisk. I knew that was horseshit because I smelled weed in the car. I then asked him for his license and his registration for the vehicle, and he claimed that it belonged to his mother for verification. I then went back to my car to trace his files and everything matched. His name read out as Kenneth DeHart. I had also dispatched for backup because I needed assistance to help me with the arrest. I then asked him to step out of his vehicle because his whole car smelled like weed. He then claimed that he didn't smoke weed, but I knew he was high. Hang out with me, I told him. Asterisk. My partner is going to get here soon. Asterisk. He then tried to overrule me and said, asterisk. I'm refusing the search. Asterisk. I wanted to laugh, but I had to stay with it. Asterisk. You cannot refuse the search. Asterisk. Our verbal exchange continued for a couple more minutes. And finally, my partner, named Greg, arrived at the scene. When he got there, he saw that I kept asking him to get out of the car, and he stepped in. Get out of the car, Greg said to Kenneth. Asterisk. Or else you're going to jail for refusing. Asterisk. That's when I decided to take matters into my own hands. So I tried opening the driver's door, but he shut it. After the guy shut his door, Greg came in and opened the door this time. That is when both of us attempted to force the man out of the car by pulling him, but he was resisting and kept on telling us that we can't do this. After we tried to pull him out, Greg got out his taser and shouted at him to get out of the car. Greg told him this a few more times, but he just ignored him. Greg finally reached a breaking point and tossed him while he was still inside his car. Kenneth was not affected by the taser, and he shut his side door. Greg then tossed him a second time, and he started screaming in agony. Greg then told me to take off his seatbelt so we could get him out of the car. It was hard, he was fighting me off and he was also much stronger than I. So Greg tossed him a third time. As he was getting tossed, I was still trying to wrestle him out of the car, but then I got tossed along with him. I walked away from the car for a moment because I was hurt from that taser. As I was away, I saw the man put up his window. I couldn't see him anymore, but what I did see was a gun in his hand. What he did with the gun was that he shot Greg twice and then shot me in the leg. I then walked away from there and back to my car, screaming in pain as Kenny drove off. I kept firing shots at his car. I then dispatched for help, saying that I had been shot. While I did that, I saw Kenny shoot Greg one last time as he drove away. I saw a few cars parked on the road. My thought was that they were going to help me, and they did because I was yelling for help, and they did it without any questions asked. I kept calling out for Greg's name, but he wouldn't answer. He could not be saved at that point, and there was nothing I could do. A woman helped me into her car, and I sat there, breathing heavily. Other police officers arrived minutes later and helped me into their car as they were going to take me to a medical center. I was driven off while a few other officers were taking care of Greg's situation. I arrived at the hospital where I was treated for my wounds. They were unable to catch Kenny, but the mayor had announced a $10,000 reward that could lead to Kenny's capture. A 5-day manhunt went by, and Kenneth was finally located and arrested at an apartment 20 miles from where he had committed the crime. He was later charged with first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, felon in possession of a firearm, aggravated assault on a first responder, evading arrest, resisting arrest, failing to maintain a lane. A prosecutor is seeking the death penalty for Kenneth and life without the possibility of parole. His trial is set to begin in April of 2026. Greg was the meaning of a true and loyal friend. He took bullets for me and saved my life. And sadly, I never had the chance to thank him for it. I still work as a police officer today, as Greg would want me to keep going. I still have a lot of bad memories from this night, but I'm coping one day at a time. Greg, I love you, man, and I'll see you soon. Story 3, The Cabin in the Catskills. I'm not really the outdoors type. I live in Queens, New York, used to constant noise. Subways, sirens, and people yelling. But after a few long months of burnout from my job in IT, I figured a weekend out of the city could help. It was early November, just cold enough to feel the air bite your face a little. I picked a cabin on Airbnb about 2.5 hours north in the Catskills. The listing looked decent, not fancy, just a basic one-bedroom cabin surrounded by forest. The hosts were a couple named Doug and Rita. They had good reviews. One guy wrote, *, very quiet, peaceful. Doug is super helpful. *. I booked it for a Friday to Sunday stay. When I got there that Friday around 4:30 p.m., it was already getting dark. The sun was sinking fast behind bare trees. I parked my car at the bottom of the gravel drive. The cabin was up a short hill, maybe 50 yards off the road, surrounded by woods that looked like they could swallow you. Doug came out to greet me. He was in his 50s, heavyset, wearing a camo jacket. His face was kind of blank. Not mean, not nice, just unreadable. *, this is your first time upstate? *, he asked. Yeah, I said. City gets old, he nodded. *, you'll sleep well out here. Quiet as a grave. *. I laughed, but he didn't. Inside the cabin, Rita was at the kitchen sink. She turned around and smiled when I walked in. Her face had a tightness to it, like she smiled out of habit, not because she wanted to. We left you some chili in the fridge, she said. Asterisk homemade. Asterisk. Asterisk. Thanks, appreciate it. Asterisk. They showed me where the firewood was stacked, how to work the heater, then said good night and left me alone. For a while, everything felt normal. I ate some of the chili, tasted fine though it was a little salty, and sat on the couch reading. My phone had 1 bar of service, enough to check email but not stream anything. That was fine. At around 11 p.m., I went outside to smoke. I don't do it often, but something about the cold and the quiet made me crave a cigarette. That's when I saw the light. Not from the cabin, but farther into the trees, maybe 100 feet away. A little flickering light, like a flashlight moving low to the ground. At first, I figured it was a reflection or maybe an animal, but it kept moving side to side, like someone walking slowly with a lantern. I squinted. Then I heard a voice. It was low, muffled by the trees. Couldn't make out words, but it was definitely a person speaking. I went back inside, locked the door, and turned off the inside lights so I could see out better. The light was gone. The next morning, I asked Doug about it when I saw him stacking wood near the shed. Asterisk. Do people hike through here at night? Asterisk, I asked. He paused. Asterisk, not this time of year. Asterisk. Asterisk, there was a light in the woods. Thought maybe it was a hunter or something. Asterisk. He looked at me longer than I liked. Asterisk, could be. Or maybe just your imagination. Asterisk. I left it there. Saturday passed slow. I hiked a bit, took photos, tried to relax, but something felt off. The cabin wasn't comforting. Felt like it was waiting for something. That night, around 1 a.m., I heard a car engine. It wasn't close. It sounded like it was coming from somewhere deeper in the woods. Then, minutes later, I heard voices again. Not yelling, just low talking. 2 people, at least. I looked out the window, trying to trace the sound, but the forest swallowed everything. No lights this time, just the voices drifting between the trees. Then a loud snap like a branch breaking. My whole body tensed. I backed away from the window and killed the lights again. I just stood there in the dark, trying to listen. The voices faded after a few minutes. I didn't sleep much after that. Every creak of the house had me on edge. In the morning on Sunday, I packed early. I just wanted to be out of there. As I loaded my duffel bag into the trunk, I noticed fresh tire tracks in the mud, off the gravel path, leading into the woods behind the shed. That part wasn't part of the driveway. There was no reason a car should have been back there. I went around the shed, just out of curiosity, and saw that the tire tracks ended at a spot where the underbrush had been trampled, like something or someone had been dragged. I didn't want to believe that. I told myself maybe Doug or someone else had pulled firewood out. But it didn't sit right. The marks were wide like a body. I suddenly had that feeling you get when you realize you might not be safe. Maybe you were never safe, and it's too late now to do anything about it. I got in the car and started driving out fast. As I hit the turn back onto the main road, Doug was standing at the bottom of his drive. Just standing there, no expression, watching my car like he expected me to stop. I didn't. Back in Queens, I tried to forget about it. But it stuck with me. That feeling, those voices, the tire tracks. I couldn't shake the thought that something bad had happened out there. 2 weeks later, I saw something in the news. Asterisk, body found in Catskill Forest. Investigation ongoing. Asterisk. The article said a hunter had found the body of a young man, partially buried beneath leaves, off a trail near Wyndham, just a few miles from where I'd stayed. He'd been shot in the chest. No ID on him at first, but later they said he was a college student from New Jersey. Hadn't been reported missing yet. His friend said he was meeting someone for a car sale he found online. I couldn't explain why, but I knew it was connected. I called the Greene County Sheriff's Department and told them what I'd seen, about the lights, the voices, the tire tracks, even about the cabin. They were polite, took my info, and said they'd follow up. I didn't hear anything for a while. Then, last week, I got a call from a detective named Coates. He told me I was right to be suspicious. They had arrested Doug and Rita after finding the victim's blood in the back of their shed, beneath a false floorboard. The couple had set up fake Facebook Marketplace ads to lure people to the woods under the pretense of selling used cars or gear. The victim had agreed to meet for a used ATV. What chilled me most was what Coates said next. Asterisk. They were watching you too. Asterisk. He said, asterisk. We found a notebook in the cabin with names and dates. Yours was in there. You were listed under possible. Asterisk. That was it. Possible. Like I was a backup. A maybe. Not their first pick. I don't know what stopped them. Maybe I looked like too much trouble. Maybe I stayed indoors too much. But I was close. Way too close. That's what I think about most now. Not the sounds or the body or the shed. Just that word possible. Like I was one bad decision away from never leaving those woods. Story 4. The Haunted Dolls. My grandma and grandpa would travel a lot when I was a child. They traveled up until my grandpa unexpectedly died of a heart attack when I was 15. They would often bring us back gifts from their travels. So I, as a child, always looked forward to their return. My sisters and I had an obsession with American Girl dolls. Every birthday and Christmas, we would ask our grandparents for the newest doll. This particular year, my grandparents took a trip to Alaska and brought my sister and me back 2 beautiful porcelain Eskimo dolls. They had beautiful porcelain skin, bright blue eyes, soft fur coats with leather tassels, and each doll came with a stuffed wolf puppy. My sister and I were ecstatic about these dolls. We had never had something so nice as our own before, so we treasured them. We were so afraid to play with them because we were afraid we would break them. So we set them up in our closet so we could look at them anytime we walked in. From a young age, I have always been someone who is very spiritually aware. I can walk into a room and sense if there is a bad or demonic presence there. It didn't take too long for me to start noticing this presence in my own bedroom, but only in my bedroom. I ignored it at first, but soon, I wasn't able to sleep unless I was facing my closet door. I constantly complained to my parents about someone being in my closet. They would come check and there was no one there, and so they brushed it off and told me to go back to sleep. I was still very unsettled. I began to dread bedtime specifically because I knew I would spend half the night in complete terror of my closet. It took me hours to fall asleep because I would lie awake, staring at my closet, expecting something to come out of it. One night, I woke up in the early morning hours, around 2 or 3 a.m. I wasn't sure what woke me. I turned around to face my closet, and I saw a black figure walk across my room and into my full-length mirror I had hanging on my door, and then just disappear. I stared in absolute horror, questioning if what I saw was even real. But that feeling of immense dread still lingered in the air. I was afraid to move or even breathe. I began to talk to my sisters about this fear I had of my closet. I slept in my room, and my 2 younger sisters shared a room. My sister began telling me about how she felt that her porcelain doll was watching her. She said she would walk into her closet, and the doll's eyes would follow her. She went into detail on how she hated walking into her closet because she felt watched constantly, and it always came back to the doll because the doll was staring at her anytime she would look over at it. I started to put 2 and 2 together. I said, asterisk, maybe the reason I can't sleep without facing my closet door is because of my porcelain doll, which was also in my closet. Asterisk. We took all of this information to my dad, who was a pastor at the time. He immediately went upstairs and took both dolls and explained to us that they needed to be smashed and thrown away. This, of course, broke my sisters and my heart. We had treasured these dolls, as they were, at the time, the most expensive thing we owned as kids. The thought of our dad going outside and smashing them with a hammer was unbearable. My dad explained to us that dark energies can overtake some objects, and the only way to get rid of those spirits is to discard the object. After some convincing, we finally agreed to allow our dad to smash the dolls. But I asked him if I could keep the stuffed wolf that the doll was holding. He told me no, that the dolls and all of their things needed to be thrown out. My sister and I went inside while my dad smashed the dolls, as we couldn't bear to watch it. I remember going outside afterward and seeing my doll smashed in the garbage bin, and my heart literally broke. I was so upset until that night. That night, I went to bed, and, to my complete shock, fell asleep in minutes, facing the closet. I no longer felt like a presence was in my room or that I had to sleep with one eye open because something was watching me. I never had that feeling over me again and was able to sleep peacefully. It was at that point that I no longer was sad over the doll getting smashed and thrown away. My sister was able to go into her closet without feeling eyes fixated on her. As a 28-year-old adult, I fully believe these dolls were possessed in some way. My grandma is still alive today, and we never told her about the dolls, as it would really upset her. I still love all my American Girl dolls and still have them today as a reminder of my childhood. But I'm hesitant when buying any other doll because of this experience. I don't think I will ever buy a porcelain doll again.